And we are live on YouTube. Hashtag. Good morning, PT on Ice. Hey everyone, good morning. My name is Dr. Alexis Morgan. I am one of 2 lead faculty with clinical management of the fitness athlete, pregnancy, and postpartum. And I am grateful to be here today with you all on this beautiful, or at least it's beautiful here in Middle Tennessee, on this beautiful May morning. Before we jump in, I just wanted to let you all know that speaking of beauty, we are going to the beautiful Bellingham, Washington for our live course that is in now less than 2 weeks. And we still have a few spots available and would love for you to join us. It's going to be such a great course and a good group out at Onward Bellingham. And we are definitely looking forward to that. Following our May course, we are going to be in June in Atlanta. So, and that is going to be at Onward Atlanta. So, hope you all can make it. We are having a blast with this course. We're getting a lot of great feedback. We got a lot of people hitting some PRs while we're hanging out with the barbell on day 2 at our course. So it's an absolute blast and would love for you to join us. So enough about our courses. Let's jump into today's topic. And just to kind of forewarn you, this may be a trigger for some people. We're going to be talking about loss, and specifically, we're going to talk about miscarriage. So if that is problematic for you, or you feel like you may not be ready to listen to a topic on this, feel free to pop off of here or turn this one off and skip to the next one, because this is a difficult topic, and it's been on my heart, especially over the weekend, given that it was just Mother's Day. And so often on Mother's Day, um, there's so many good things happening. We're celebrating all of the women in our lives that have served as mother figures or mothers. In our group for the female athlete, we are celebrating the pregnant athlete and the postpartum mom. Like, we are celebrating all of these people, and we are also holding space for a lot of grief and loss. And this day can be really, really challenging on a lot of people. A lot of people who wish that they were pregnant, who wish that they could be a mom, and that they were being celebrated as a mother, but they're still not pregnant. or maybe even those who have had a child and are having infertility now between children, and struggling with that. I think that there can be a lot of shame and a lot of guilt, especially around this topic. And today I just kind of wanted to break down a little bit of some details about miscarriage and a resource that I highly recommend. So this book, it's called Not Broken. I think somebody in our online course recommended this, and I bought this just to understand it better and be able to recommend it to people who are struggling with miscarriage or recurring pregnancy loss. So, individuals who have had three or more miscarriages. This is a really, really good resource, and I'm gonna talk through a couple of details about miscarriage and some numbers, and it comes from this book. So, this is written by Laura Shahine. She's a medical physician, a medical doctor, and she's actually out in Seattle, Washington. And she specializes in this topic in infertility, and helping individuals. And I love the topic. I love her title, Not Broken, as this is something that many women who have had miscarriage or recurring loss, many often feel it's them, like they're the ones that are broken. Something is wrong with them, and it can be really, really hard. And what she does a great job of is letting you know that it's not you. In many, many cases, it is not. So it's really, really common to have a miscarriage. It's actually 1 in 4 women are going to have a miscarriage at some point in their fertility journey. 1 in 4. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people in kind of this window of time in which we may be interacting and have no idea what they've just recently been through because they're not ready to share that yet. Numbers actually would be even higher reported if the numbers of a biochemical miscarriage were reported. So there's a clinical miscarriage and there's a biochemical miscarriage. So a clinical miscarriage is one that the pregnancy was progressing enough to be noted on an ultrasound. And then for whatever reason, the pregnancy no longer progresses. But that was seen clinically initially. On the other hand, the biochemical miscarriage or a chemical miscarry, that is a miscarriage in which someone was late for their period. They may have tested positive on an at-home pregnancy test, and then that pregnancy quit developing very, very early. So maybe they got their period a few weeks later and they had a positive uh, test at home, and then it wound up being negative. And so this was all happening before they ever got a an ultrasound. It was not noted clinically. So as you can imagine, that experience, it's not happening clinically. Like those numbers aren't being reported. Many people are experiencing this in their homes with their partners or their spouse, whomever, their friend, but not many people are knowing about these numbers. And so, if we think that 1 in 4 have had a clinical miscarriage, we know that that has got to be even higher if we're going to include the biochemical miscarriages. And so, again, just like having this on our minds as this week after Mother's Day, um, I'm choosing my words. Obviously, I'm celebrating our moms, but I'm also acknowledging the fact that this may have been a hard weekend for you, and we can talk about that if you want to. Know that I had a good weekend and a hard one as well, and that's normal to kind of carry both of those emotions. As we often say at ICE, it's and not or. So I can feel happy and sad. I don't have to feel one or the other about these. Um, Moving along, talking about miscarriage. So miscarriage is hard enough as there's loss involved, but it does compound when there's recurring loss. So, again, a lot of this data is talking about clinical miscarriages, but I would say that the same rings true as far as the difficulties when biochemical miscarriages are at play. And so, when there are three or more clinical miscarriages together, that is recurring pregnancy loss. And it's rare, but it does happen. So it's about 5% of individuals are going to experience that recurring loss. And oftentimes it's the first trimester where that loss occurs. And it's 60 to 80% of the time, it's because of the embryo. It's because something chromosomally is incorrect or not optimal for that baby to be healthy later on. And so the mother's body um, chooses to not let that pregnancy progress. And it feels weird to kind of say this, but in a lot of ways, it's good. It's the mother's body doing the right thing for her. And it's actually a good thing. And again, I don't often say it like that, um, but it is something, again, going back to the title of this book, you're not broken. It's There's nothing wrong with you. It was kind of a mixture of bad luck with the way that the sperm and egg got together and the way that the embryo was manifesting, and it just didn't work out. That does not take away anything from how difficult that is, or the grief and loss that brings up. It absolutely does not do that. But I think what it does do is allows for there to just be that grief and loss and not shame and not guilt, because the mom didn't do anything to have that result, not in that way. And so when there's that recurring loss, it can definitely feel more so like there is something wrong. But what is really incredible to share is that many, many people do still get pregnant. And in this book, she gives a kind of a case example. Um, and she says that even if there was a 35-year-old female, which we know that as we age, our likelihood of getting pregnant decreases. It is much more likely for a person over the age of 45 to have a miscarry than it is at age 25. So a 35-year-old with a history of 5 miscarriages, so a lot, talking about that recurrence, she still has a 62% chance of having a baby the very next pregnancy. So sharing this shares hope, and it shares that you're not broken. It shares that what you want is likely to occur. 62% chance of this individual who is a bit older and who has had a lot of miscarries, 5. Still more than chance that she's going to have a baby on the next pregnancy. So there is hope, and we can often be that beacon of hope with these individuals that come through our door. And oftentimes we're seeing these people for other issues. They maybe it's pelvic floor, but maybe they're here for their neck, or maybe they're seeing you for tendinopathy. There's so many reasons why they may be in your door. And with having this conversation and talking about it, we can just be more mindful with that. And the last thing that I'll just say here, and again, I love that they emphasize this in this book, Not Broken. But at South College says we need for people to take their meds. And meds at South College, that stands for meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And she really emphasizes lifestyle factors at the end of this book, which is just beautiful because that's exactly what we're emphasizing for various reasons clinically when someone comes into our treatment rooms, right? And so we can just use even more of this to create health and to create an environment in which builds a resilient human being who can go through this tough stuff. And so we want to encourage mindfulness or some type of meditation practice or some kind of stress relief, self-care, getting out in nature or singing a song, like whatever that may be, we need to encourage that. And of course, exercise. And we can talk about all the ways that exercise is beneficial and about how oftentimes we may be having to debunk the myth that exercise was part of a reason why someone may have had a miscarriage. That is not true. So we need to help them understand and help them exercise and find something that works for them. And we need to help them optimize their food, their diet, eating colorful foods, eating a well balanced meal. Oftentimes when grief and loss come in, so does the junk food and sweets, and that can just pile on top of itself and really create an environment for mental struggle. And so we want to build that resiliency through the diet. And then last thing is sleep. We all know how beneficial sleep is for our mental well-being. And while sleep can be really challenging when we're under a lot of mental stress, there are some techniques, there are some ways that we can promote a healthy sleeping environment, whether that's the dark room and the cool bed, that may be a down regulating headspace, or watching that headspace nighttime on Netflix before going to bed. There's so many things to kind of down regulate and get into the rhythm for sleep prior to going to sleep. And all of these things are going to be very, very beneficial. It's the things we know. We're just tailoring it into what that individual needs. So, as usual, especially in this topic related to female athletes and pregnancy and postpartum, there's so much that we've got to educate about. The fact that, it's 1 in 4 with a clinical miscarriage, it's oftentimes more individuals. So, you're not alone. Number 2, it's okay to have grief and sadness. What we don't want to have is shame and guilt because you're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. It just was an unlucky situation in which your body needed to stop that pregnancy. And then lastly, we need to promote meditation, exercise, diet, and sleep. And sometimes it's choosing one of those to focus on initially and moving forward. But we can really promote health in this population, and we can just hold space for the difficulty that these people are experiencing. And it's difficult at all times, but I think it really gets heightened over Mother's Day weekend for a lot of individuals. So keep that on your minds this week as you're seeing your people who may be experiencing struggle, and give them a little bit of extra support along the way. So, thank you all for being with me and listening this morning. I hope this gives you some insight and hope this helps you help someone else this week or later. And hope to see you all on the road. Otherwise, we do have another cohort of our online course, and that is starting July 5th. We would love to have you in that cohort as well. So, I will see you next time. Until then, have a good one.